Hey friends, Dr. Motley here with the Ancient Health Podcast, and let's talk about chronic UTIs, chronic kidney/bladder infections, and chronic yeast infections. Now, do you suffer from these types of infections where you feel like you can't knock them out, you can't get rid of them? They continuously always aggravate you. I have that many times in my office with patients daily. Now, the reason that it is so important is because kidney strength is vital for overall strength in your body. In Chinese medicine and in Western medicine, the kidneys sit right here, right near the navel, near my Chinese medicine doll. Here the kidneys sit. And if you have consistent tightness around the back, right here where the lower ribs end, that can be an indication of kidney dysfunction. Now, the importance with this is that the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. In Chinese medicine, the adrenal glands are known as the fire element. And the fire element produces ATP. That's what adrenaline does. It helps you create energy. It's your turbo in your cells. But if that fire element is always consistently firing because you're in fight or flight or always under stress, the adrenal glands can produce quite a bit of cortisol, quite a bit of adrenaline, and it can literally dry up the water element aspect of the kidneys. So the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys, and if they're overactive, they will actually pull a lot of electrical energy, a lot of biological, biochemical energy from the kidneys. The kidneys suffer. They can shrivel up, if you want to say, because they dry up. So the more active that you are in the fight or flight syndrome, the more your kidneys get weak. And your kidneys are vital for the qi in your body, the overall qi. It's called the jing. It's what you get from your parents. It is your vital force within the navel area. The entry point of the kidney meridian is at the base of the foot called the kidney 1. This is where a lot of your electrical flow from the earth, the ion transfer from the earth occurs. Now, you're going to see different types of symptoms. When you have a UTI, a bladder infection, a kidney infection, you not only have warm urination or hot urination, you could have pain right in the lower pubic area, the lower pelvic area. You can also have that chronic nagging pain right here at the low back like we previously talked about. But what are other signs and symptoms that you have a UTI or a chronic yeast infection in that area when it doesn't show on a urinalysis? What are the signs and symptoms? Remember, the kidney meridian starts here at the base of the foot. It travels up, basically, the inside of the leg, through the hip flexor, up the front of the body, up through the chest, and it will end right near the base of the collarbone. Without getting too complicated, the electricity is meant to travel through the kidneys to give it energy. But you can have symptoms along the pathway inside the leg up through the hip flexors. Now, that would mean that you could have tight hip flexors. You ever do yoga or stretching and you say, I can never get my hip flexors to actually release? Do you have chronically weak ankles on the inside or chronically sprain your ankles? Do you have chronic knee pain on the inside of your knees? Do you have times where you urinate heavily throughout the night? Consistently, you get up at night to urinate. Do you have fear? The kidneys in Chinese medicine help you process fear. They help keep the fight or flight at bay. Does that make sense? The adrenals are overworking, they're making you afraid, you're living life, but the kidneys are there to be a yin organ. It's cooling it down, it's trying to keep it at bay, to keep you calm. But whenever the adrenals are overworking, you get into a chronic fight or flight, the kidneys suffer, and you'll stay fearful. So the kidneys help you process emotions of fear. The bladder is connected to the kidneys because the kidneys flow urine into the bladder. So the emotions of the kidney and bladder are fear, dreading something. I dread going to work. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to see the people I work with. I can't move forward in life. I can't get ahead. If you feel like you're paralyzed, if you don't dream anymore, if you don't feel intuitive, if you're not naturally being creative, those are all aspects of the kidney and the bladder. The kidney strength is to be creative, to be intuitive, to pick up on other individuals' emotions. You can do it in a heartbeat because you know how other people feel because your kidneys are so strong. If you suffer from some of these symptoms, that is a forewarning that your kidneys are weak and that you could be susceptible to the UTI, the bladder infection, or the kidney infection. Furthermore, if you get tired very badly between 3 to 5 p.m., that is known as the kidney time in Chinese medicine. That is the natural circadian rhythm, the natural horary cycle, they call it, H-O-R-A-R-Y, horary cycle of the body. That's when all the electricity is going to your kidneys to give you strength. But if you get really tired in that time of day, your kidneys are weak. And so you start to see these signs and symptoms, and then the kidneys feed into the bladder. And this is another sign and signal. 5 to 7 p.m. is when the bladder starts to get energized. You need to nurture that time. You need to drink hot teas or drink a really good cleansing herbal like a dandelion or a milk thistle. You need to take a good warm bath to help reinvigorate the kidneys, or take a good walk outside to get in touch with nature. Get into contact with elements such as magnesium salts or the dirt. Get outside to where you can get near the elements. Or go for a swim, which will invigorate the kidney meridian, but it helps accentuate your relaxation. Now, as it goes into this bladder time, and you're cultivating and you're relaxing, the bladder meridian is right here between the eyes. And it goes right down the back, down the head, and down right through the back, through the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, and through the ankles. Now, as that occurs, what's happening is if you ever have times where you have thinning hair on the top of your head or you have chronic headaches between the eyes, that could be an indication you have a UTI, a chronic yeast infection, or chronic bladder infection. Because remember, the energy is backing up the meridian. So if you have a bladder infection here, the energy, instead of going down the body, will go right back up and go back up towards the head, and it will inflame the scalp, and you can actually cause the scalp to loosen the hair to release it. And here's another quick fact, guys. A good fact is that the kidneys release erythropoietin, which is a hormone that tells your bone marrow to release what? Red blood cells, especially those that bone within your spinal column and your scalp, your cranium. And if you have proper blood flow, proper blood support from your bones, your hair will stay in place. But if your kidneys are weak, you don't release the erythropoietin to tell the bones to actually release the blood cells to keep the roots strong and stable. These are all signs and signals that your kidneys are not strong and your bladder is weak. So we want to strengthen up the kidneys and the bladder because it's a great fertile ground for yeast and mold and fungus. There's other infections that can get into this area, but what happens is the kidneys are probably one of the biggest filtration systems of the body. Many times we think of the liver as the ultimate filter. Chinese medicine, it's up to par with the kidney. The kidney could be considered the biggest filtration system, along with the lungs. Now, the kidneys are there to help cleanse the blood, to help with what? Creating water-soluble toxins. The liver does that, pours it into the kidneys. The kidneys filtrate even more to help you urinate out. As the kidneys do this, we are involved with so much fungus in our culture today, especially with all the new construction, with the foods we eat, because starches, refined carbs, trans fats, they all feed yeast and fungus, and they grow in our body, and our body's trying to filter them out daily. And when this occurs, the kidneys get tired because they're trying to filter all day, let alone if you're in fight or flight. If you're scared or fearful, your kidneys get even more fatigued. And so you have fungus and mold and yeast that can build up, even parasites or bacteria, can build up within the kidneys, and they get tired. And then these infections will trickle down the ureter, the little tubes that go into the bladder, and that could go into the urethra. And that can cause chronic yeast infections vaginally or chronic prostatitis within men. So you have these kidney areas that are so weak because not only it's diet, it's environment, it's fear, it's the chronic bombardment of environmental toxins, and all of these put together, especially in the rushing arena of American culture and all around the world. We're moving so fast, guys. We're pushing hard, and this will weaken your kidneys where you don't feel stable. If you don't feel stable in life, it is the kidney meridian. It's helping you feel stable in the hip flexors. It helps you ground to the earth. So you have infections that build up in these organs and they stick around because, of course, we had to change our diet. Food's medicine. We had to change certain herbals. That's great. But remember, emotionally, you have to find out what is creating fear, the dread in life, feeling stuck and suffocated, I can't move forward. You have to identify those because if you don't, you won't release yourself from the fight or flight. And that's going to keep charging the adrenals to keep fatiguing the kidneys. You have to get that emotional component under control. So I recommend different types of techniques. One of the easiest ones that I say at home, but it has such good implications around the whole body to heal, is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, tapping. I love acupuncture as well. I love neuro-emotional technique, NET. And I love neurofeedback and EMDR. These are all really good processes to help heal the emotions. But things that are based in acupuncture to help heal the kidney meridian and the bladder meridian, you will see leaps and bounds if you get those organs healed up. If you find a good Chinese medicine practitioner that can do these things to the kidneys and the bladder, and you can actually have herbs that help strengthen them and clean them out, you will see your fears reduce, you'll have a better control over your emotions, and you'll start to see your hips start to loosen up. You'll start to see that the headaches between your eyes start to go, and you'll actually start seeing that your hair stops falling out. I've seen it in my office. It's amazing. So you start to see that these infections grow and they cultivate, but the first avenue is to get your emotions under control and then to strengthen up the kidneys and the bladder through acupuncture or acupuncture-based systems and any type of neurobiofeedback. Those are really great ways. And then when you start to cultivate that, I suggest different types of herbals to help strengthen up the kidneys. Here are a few examples. I don't want to overwhelm you. I've talked about this with the gallbladder. Phyllanthus or Bodyguard Supreme is really good with strengthening up the kidneys. They break up the stones within the kidneys. And it helps nurture and clean them out. So if you have fungus or yeast or mold that's sticking around and they create plaquing, they can create biofilms. Biofilms are the gel, the goo that they produce, and they had to be broken apart. So you can take the Bodyguard. You can also take biofilm busters, and there's many enzymes out there, guys, that have that, but be very careful because yeast, mold, fungus can all live within the biofilm, and if you release them too quickly, they'll actually break open and you can feel sick. But if you do these in nice nominal amounts, if you put them in slow dosages, maybe one every other day or one every 2 days, you'll slowly break down these biofilms, these plaques, these stones, and you'll start to see that your kidneys will actually have more energy to help you fight off and clean out the bacteria or the yeast or the fungus. Because in our culture, we always say, take antifungal, anti-yeast. But remember, it's strengthening up the kidney and the bladder, and you need to kill them off as well. So we're going to use that. We're going to use reishi mushroom, reishi supreme, reishi mushroom, different forms of mushrooms. And you think you would use a mushroom to kill off fungus or help clean out? Yes. Certain mushrooms are really good at cleaning out fungus. It's biocompetition. So you start to clean them out with reishi. I like certain herbals that help with the cleansing of the kidneys. I like Schisandra. It's mostly used for liver, Schisandra berry. But I've seen it work well with the kidneys. I like dandelion root tea. Milk thistle also helps. And I like neem. Neem, in my opinion, really helps strengthen up the kidneys. And I also like chrysanthemum. I know these are a lot, guys, but I'm saying these are all options. Neem, N-E-E-M, and chrysanthemum, known as Vital Guard Supreme. These help strengthen up the vital chi within the kidneys, and they kill off a lot of microbials. They're antimicrobial in nature. So research these, guys. If you have that chronic UTI, that fungal infection that can't get eliminated, use the Bodyguard Supreme. Use the reishi to build the strength and get more energy in there. Get some of those enzymes in there to break down the biofilm. Drink plenty of water to keep you flushed. You can sip on dandelion tea, a little milk thistle. And then if you need a little extra strength, neem is really good. Or the chrysanthemum. They do really well with cleaning out the kidneys. Now, finding a Chinese medicine practitioner that's very knowledgeable in these herbs and these practices is vital. If you can find a practitioner that can help revitalize the kidneys, you're going to see your UTIs and your chronic yeast infections start to fade. Remember, it's a journey. Your kidneys did not get this way overnight. You have to be very, very slow in the process and expect that 8 months to a year of gentle cleansing and gentle nurturing of the kidney meridian and bladder meridian are needed and essential. Do not rush through this. You need to cultivate and nourish your body to help with your fears. And I would also suggest, as you're taking the herbs and you're using the emotional techniques, that you cut out refined carbs and starches, that you drink more water, and that you really pay attention to anything that would congest or cause your adrenal glands to lock down. So you, again, not refined. You don't want to do any refined sugars. You don't want to eat things that are too high in carb or spike your blood sugar. Please monitor your blood sugar levels, whether it's an arm monitor or taking it randomly throughout the week to find out where your blood sugar is at. This can heavily affect your kidney function. So that's a deep dive. When the yeast is in there, remember, yeast give off different toxins known as acetaldehyde. They give off certain types of ammonia. They can give off certain types of ethanol, which is alcohol, which dumbs down your nerves and makes the nerves around your kidneys and around your bladder work awkwardly, slows them down, doesn't allow your strength to be held within the kidneys or the muscles around your bladder and kidney, which makes you urinate more. Your body is busy trying to get rid of all these toxins. So if you can get the yeast reduced by giving energy into the kidneys and bladder, you'll start to see your urination start to fade. So guys, that's a quick deep dive into the yeast arena. There are good anti-yeast and candida busters. I love them, but don't forget the herbs that we mentioned to help the kidney and the bladder. So if you have any more questions, guys, in the show notes or underneath we'll have comments. And if you have any other suggestions, you want to hear any more videos about this subject matter, please let us know. We just want to give you a quick look into what you can look for and into to help get rid of those chronic pesky UTIs. Review all the symptoms I talked about. If you're having those, but you don't find those things on a urinalysis, there is a hidden kidney infection, and you need to go ahead and start strengthening up the kidneys and the bladder so you don't let it turn into a chronic UTI or kidney or fungal infections for most of your life, because I've seen people that have lived with this for many years. Remember, we want to be an encouragement. Here at the Health Institute, Courtney, Dr. Axe, and I say, we love you. We hope you have a great day, and please let us know what you think about this podcast.